Well, hey now, welcome everybody. Another edition of your SCL Weekly, covering the Season 18 Sunday Cup League on Gran Turismo 6 for PlayStation 3. I'm already out of breath before we get started here. We've got our special guest in the house tonight. As usual, we got Carlin Hicks sitting by, and we also have a special guest appearance tonight by Immortal Gooch. If you want to say hi to the folks real quick here, Gooch.
Hey everybody, what's going on?
You hear his redneck ass in the studio, you know it's SCL Weekly. All right, here we go. Well, we've had an eventful week. We have this week off, so we don't really have any upcoming races. We got a nice kind of week that we can relax, do some testing, and get ready for the week ahead at Willow Springs and Motegi. But we had awesome races on some of the created tracks, as well as 2 points events at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. First, we'll get started with the Winston Cup event. We finished up Sunday night out at Greenville Speedway, the Greenville 200 Winston Cup event. That was an awesome race. We had quite a few participants in that one. We'll go ahead and take a look here in the club event. Click on the old Greenville 200, and we'll start talking about it. Carlin, I think we had a pretty good race out of Greenville. How did you think it went?
I thought Greenville went very well. It's a 1.25 mile flat track. I thought it was excellent. The track position was vital in that race. We had the lag issues naturally. We've gone over those in other episodes. I don't think we need to touch on that now. But overall, I thought everybody raced pretty well. There was a little bit of rough stuff. But the thing we learned, and I'm sure Gooch will get into it when we discuss his win at Dixie Union. These tracks are all about track position. I really hope Polyphony gets their stuff together, because this is real. This is more so than even what we do at Daytona and Indianapolis. This is real racing. You know, when you have a 20, 30, 40 car field in a real life Cup race or IndyCar race, you know, you got to use that. You know, yeah, I could get fresh tires, but I don't care if you're a Wokey. If you have to start 40th and go through the field on a restart, you know, you're going to have problems. And that track position to me at these tracks tells everything. And when you lose it, you get wrecked, it frustrates you. As it turned out, a Wokey managed to get the win. I believe that was Cole in the Sunday Cup League account, wound up in second. And a Cat guy came through in third. But that was really a scramble at the end, who had the track position at a particular time. I know that there were various guys running up front at different times. And really, it's a very interesting race. You know, you got to use strategy. You got to use, some guys were short fitting, some guys were staying out long. If it had stayed green, which it would have for a while had there not been lag cautions, who knows what would have happened. But like we've said at all these tracks, man, once they get that stuff together, the racing is just great at these tracks.
Yeah, we definitely have good tracks built. You know, we don't have any problem with the actual drivers being out there, and you know, it's really fun battling on these tracks where you have to lift a little bit. It's not like, you know, Indy or Daytona where it's kind of flat foot and it point and shoot. Kind of, you got to really work at it, figure out, use your mind to get around the guy in front of you. And it's not a super wide track, so you don't have a lot of space to get around them. So I know Gooch was talking about that it was a lot tighter than when they raced at Dixie Union on Saturday night, but that was real fun. I think everybody, you know, like you said, if it could have gone green, we could have had some good strategies, pit stops, and all that. But I definitely think Pat Stark on the race with the Waukee, man, he was just, you know, pulling away from everybody as soon as we got a good green flag run going there. And he had a little trouble getting back up through the pack. You know, the track position, like you said, was intense. And with not a super wide track, you don't have a lot of room to get around people. So track position was important all night. The guys that had it kept it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would even venture to say that, and I'm hoping I'm not giving anything away here, but when I've watched some of these created races and taken some of the data down, the one thing I've noticed is that with these tracks, you're going to see, when we get the long races and the servers are better for them, you're going to see a lot of difference, because there are guys who are running, you know, a tenth or two quicker, the high qualifiers. You're seeing tire wear play a factor. We did some testing, and without giving up details to the other teams, I'll just let you know. if you're a tenth or two quicker in the first, handful of laps of a run, you're probably a tenth or two slower at the end. And I definitely noticed that you can take care of your tires, and it all depends on the strategy you're on. If you're going long, you have to take care of the tires. We'll see more of that the longer these races go green.
Yeah, like you said, this is kind of real racing. Gooch, I knew you were in it. You want to hit on it just a little bit before we move on to the next series, how the Greenville 200 went for the Team Okie Racing last night?
Yeah, it was, when you get back luckily in the Grand National race, I didn't have to spend a whole lot of time in the back. But when you get back in the back of the field, it's hard to make positions up with the lag and stuff. But I have hope that they're going to get this shit figured out, because if you take all that out, which is, it's not a points race, so you can't take it too seriously. So when you take out that, aspect, that lag aspect, I thought the racing was really good. You know what I mean? And the tracks, unlike some of the tracks the game came with, I think that they're really allowed, drivers' talent, to separate the field. You know what I mean? It gives you a chance to, if, the draft doesn't, I don't think, take so much a part in these races.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we designed them. They're supposed to be, a lot of the time in the corner. We could only make the straightaways so short. I would think all of the straightaways that we have are as short as they can possibly be. So it's all about different turns. A lot of these tracks are kind of the same, but like you said, they all have their own kind of, aspects that are different than all the other tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, not to tell you, Greenville, for example, has a totally different feel when you get back on the throttle coming through 1 and 2 than, say, one of the 1 mile tracks or
even
or
3
Dixie
and 4
Union.
on Greenville. I realize that Greenville, it flattens out a lot on the front straightaway because of the pit road. It's real nice and flat. That transition's real abrupt, where on the back stretch coming out of 2, it's a lot more gradual. So even, the two sides of the track think the same.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You see, guys can take 1 and 2 and kind of roll it off and use as much of the track as possible. When you come out of 4, you can roll it off and use as much of the track as possible. And some guys are pushing it all the way to the line towards the pit road entrance. But those are the guys who are getting themselves in trouble, because you can only dance with that wall for so long.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. A lot of the kicking it out right there off 4. I think every single car probably had a big catch right there.
Well, I'll give you something I thought about when I was officiating some of those races the last couple Saturdays at a created track. And I'll tell you, this is not something that's been discussed. Johnny's hearing this for the first time as well, but I'm definitely going to mention it. I feel that on those tracks, especially the bigger ones, the 1.5 mile, the 2 mile ones, when you come off turn 4, I believe that white line that breaks up the end of the track, between the end of the track and pit row, I don't think you should be allowed to use it, hanging it out that far. I mean, obviously you will a couple times if you overcook it a little, because I was seeing guys that were causing a caution, because you can only do that so much. And if you do it and then you hit the wall, everyone behind you is going to hit you. And
or if you do it and try and squeeze everybody back onto the track.
Exactly. And so,
without hitting the wall,
exactly.
An issue there too.
Yeah. So I think that that in a race, we should make the rule should be that you shouldn't be using the actual pit row entrance to get out of 4. You shouldn't use that as extra track. And if you do, and you cause, you hit the wall on your own right in front of the pack and wreck, if you do that a couple times in a race, then you should be, considered for at least a back to the back of the field type of situation.
Yep. Well, we had a great run on those created tracks. Let's talk about the actual United States Auto Speedways here, up in Gooch's neck of the woods. I guess kind of up by me too a little bit. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Indiana. We had Friday night the Indy cars were took to the Speedway, and from what I hear, it was an awesome race. Colio pulled it off here. It looks like he was just barely inched out J-Dog, who they finished 1-2 in the season opener. So they're having a real big dogfight here in the IndyCar. I wasn't there for this one, but I heard great things about it. Gooch, and want to tell me how the IndyCar race went here at Indy?
Oh yeah. Well, first off, it was my first race in an Indy car, in a minute because I can't race full time in the series anymore. But so I kind of just hung around in the back most of the race. But it's good old Indy and IndyCar. I mean, there's a reason why we haven't changed those cars in a while, and that's just because the racing's just so damn good. You know what I mean? And at Indianapolis, it's even better. It seems like that's the track that they run the best at. Tire wear, the way burn off that back tire and get loose at the end of a run, and everything, just how they draft up on one another and stuff. It always makes for a good race.
Oh yeah, totally. It's usually a good race. That's why their biggest race is held there, the Indianapolis 500. This is kind of the precursor to the Indy 500. Looks like Carlin got a third place. What did it look like from the front of the pack there, Carlin?
Oh yeah, the like Gooch is right. The package of the Indy cars has always been terrific. We tested a bunch of different styles before we ever started. I've seen what other people in other leagues do with the Formula GTs, and I mean we got it down pat. And the fact is that race alone, once again, it was a scramble. There is track position is an element in Indy cars to some extent, just because like you said, especially the farther the tires go, it's harder to make moves. I know I was out front for a while in that race. J-Dog was up there. Cole had a back to front kind of night. He kept going back and forth. And really what happened in that race is there were more than those 7. We had some DNFs, but there was a restart with only a handful of laps remaining. I believe DW McFreak, he stayed out and got the track position on older tires. And he was a sitting duck at that point. He made the move he had to make because he had been unable to get track position. So he made his bed, but it was very, very tough when there's all those new tires around you. And he got a little squirrely, and that kind of thing happens. As far as how the end of the race went, that was one of those where I was in the lead. I had Colio behind me, and hopefully, J-Dog, you're listening. Give me a push next time, man. Come on. But we came off turn 4, and everybody made their bed and went for it, and that's how it turned out. But that's how those races go, except on the odd occasion when one of us can cut a pit stop or pull some kind of strategy on a long green finish. That's how those races go. You come off of the final lap and you make your bed and hope for the best. I tried to keep my line and hope that was good enough, and it wasn't. But walk out of there with a podium finish when it didn't go the way you wanted to is fine. I mean, J-Dog's got to win in a second. He's going to be looking good, but it's still early in the season. I mean, there's 5 races left in the point standings, and some of those are, the big, like the Indy 500 and whatnot, big swing races. And, IndyCar is my favorite series, the way it drives. And I just think that we had another good one. And here, not this week coming up, but next week when we head out to Motegi, we got a lot of guys looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it was awesome race there at Indianapolis. Those cars always put on a show. Again, it was Colio coming home first, J-Dog in second, my man Carlin Hicks coming in third, and top 4 with Gooch wrapping up top 4 with a occasional start there. He had a good finish. Super 8 fifth. And it looks like Kip Paulnaff was 6th, and the Kiwi Freak, he did like you said, he had a good showing, but in the end ran out of stuff. All right, so that was another good race in Indianapolis. Another awesome race we had there in Indianapolis. Well, it was going to turn into an awesome race, wasn't it? Was our Chevy 200 Camel GT race. We had our first event there on the oval for the Camel GT cars, and man, that was fun. The cars raced real good there on the oval. I think they handled really well. The package that we got is good. They can really suck up on people and make moves that maybe some of the other cars can't. Like you said, Carl, it's kind of a cross between a Cup car and Indy car, where it's a bodied stock car, but it has a lot of downforce. I think we got a real good package there. Just wish the service could have held on with us a little bit longer.
Oh yeah, it was really a great race. The Zeos, like you said, it's weight wise, aerodynamic. It's right between like an Indy car and a stock car. So it really gives, I think, everybody a good feel for driving either one. And as far as that race went, we were caution free, I believe. If not, there was one early in the race, but we had the race broke open. It was about the pit stops. It was really turning out to be a great finish. I mean, everybody was in their little groups chasing each other down. And in those races, as you know, you might come out a few seconds behind off of a pit stop, and you got a drafting partner. It doesn't just matter, that you have a drafting partner. You have to have the right drafting partner that can push you through, the corners, that can stay with you when the tires wear. I know that, I even have teammates that we run really well together for 15, 20 laps, but one of us is better on old tires, and then you get that separation. That's the key to the Team Danamore's success on draft races is, Kip and Cole can run together regardless of what the tire situation, and that's really what that race was turning out to. But then we had the big server lag, and I know we're going to be reviewing the rules for these situations, but being that we were beyond halfway, rookie Smooth 560 picked up the win, his first career win, just by being out there on the track. And as it turned out, the standings that you're looking at, Smooth Colio was second, J-Dog third, Johnny Benson took fourth, and Awoki took a fifth, breaking his 9-race Camel GP winning streak. Those were really, that was really just where people were running and what order they disconnected in. And, we always say it when it comes to the discos. You play other games, you play Madden or anything like that, and, somebody quits or the servers lock up on you, it just ruins your day. With racing, all the server trouble we do have, and, considering that not 10 years ago you didn't have the technology to do what we're doing right now, it has a parallel. If your internet, we've always said, is part of your engine package. If you disconnect, it's the same thing as blowing up. Don't have a cow about it. Just come out next time and hardwire it and hope for the best. And this is one of those races where, everybody, the servers didn't like us. It was on a normal track. We shouldn't have had a problem, but Polyphony and PSN, I think, has really had some trouble the last few weeks. And that's one of those races. Smooth 560, I sent him a message congratulating him, saying, hey, look, you joined the Winner Circle Club. And he was incredulous at that. And I just said, hey, you're eligible for the Busch Clash. You take a win where you can get it. And, like I said, I'm really looking forward to the next time we come back here. We got Motegi in these cars later this season in a points race. And I think that it's been proven that these are just great cars wherever you put them.
Yeah, it was really kind of crazy as everybody was peeling out there. You and Gooch were one of the first couple to disconnect out of that room. We were past halfway. I think we were on lap 45 or 48 or something like that, just past halfway. Enough to make it an official race, though. Like you said, those are the rules. We go off of the rule book from that situation happening, and we could see the point at which everybody disconnected, with Colio disconnecting second to last. Kip was able to look at his screen. They're sitting in the same room, and as everybody was disconnecting, it was popping up into the chat menu. He was recording them as they were all blowing up there, and it was crazy being one of the last guys in there. Me and J-Dog Colio just going back and forth like, man, I bet you it's going to be you next. I bet you it's going to be. And then everybody's just cracking up and laughing. Milwaukee came back into the room, so he was able to keep the room up and see the Smooth won the event. It's kind of a weird way to win one, but like you said, a win's a win. What did you think about that race there, Gooch? As we touch on that the last little bit here.
Well, I wasn't having such a great race, and I think I was like running ninth or something. I had lost the draft. I can't remember what happened, but it was probably my fault. But anyway, I had lost the draft, and maybe we had just pitted, and I had a bad pit stop. But anyway.
Yeah, you had a bad entry to the pit, Gooch.
Yeah. So, to me, really, it was just kind of a, oh, well, you're going to have those. For every win I have 10,000 of those. That's, but the one win makes it worth it. So you just, say, fuck it, you move on. It is what it is.
Yep. And speaking of moving on, we had some awesome races there. Well, we'll keep right with you, Gooch. How did you pull off the win there at Dixie Union for our first ever race at Dixie Union in the Grand National car. You had a great run Saturday night.
Yeah, I took to that track like a duck takes to water. And I had fastest lap a few times in that race. It got passed back and forth a few times, but I held it for a long time. And I think Carlin got it there right at the last 25 laps or so, or last run, at least, tire run. Carlin snatched it away from me. But I would say that was a 50-50 race, man. And I'm good. It's a good thing I had the track position, because after what happened to me Sunday, I know that, you can have a fast car, and if you just get back there in that, and on the restarts, they lag back into you, and you get kicked back, or you lift to miss a lag, and you lose all that track position. It's so hard to make it back up. And so it's a lot of track position, and the fact that I really like that track, and I took to it pretty quickly right off the bat.
Oh yeah, you were good in that race, Stu. It's basically a 1.5 mile oval at Dixie Union. It's fairly wide open, but it's you really got to kind of. I know that in my case, using a little rear brake bias, sliding it through the corner a little bit, but trying to do it without cooking your tires, because that if you can be good on, scrub tires, or at least mediocre tires, then you can stay out and get track position. And from what I recall in that race, that's what you did near the end of the race. And, if you get a jump on a restart and the second, third, fourth place guys start fighting each other, then, as important as restarts have always been in this league, and I tell the rookies all the time, it took me 3 seasons to get a hang of it. You really need to be good on restarts here. You got to hang far enough back so that somebody behind you can't get a jump on you, and then you got to go. And in that last restart, you had a great jump and held on to it. And like I described earlier when we were off air, I had to make a move on Remy, who was in second on that restart, and I stuck my nose in there, but it was just enough time to give you a run, and I didn't quite have your draft. I was running 9/10 of a second behind you on that last run, and that's just far enough to where I'm not getting any draft, and we're both on equal tires. We're not gaining anything on each other, and it really was a great race. The same like we were saying about Greenville. It's when they're clean, it's going to be great.
And I have to give a shout out to Remy too, because I have to say Carlin was probably the fastest car on the track, and me and him kind of, like I said, it changed positions a few times. Fastest lap, he got it at the end there, and but Remy was fast, and he was probably the only other car in that whole race besides Carlin that really kind of gave me any kind of competition. Basically, if I got to someone's back bumper and everything went right, I could get around them in a corner or two. And the only ones that really gave me a fight at all was Carlin and Remy. Remy has that place figured out pretty good too.
Well, Remy's one of those drivers that he doesn't have the pace of the top 3 or 4 qualifiers do in a race. We know that, but Remy's one of those guys where if it's a race and you're head to head in a pack of cars, he's as good as anybody. And anybody who doesn't believe that, just look at his record. He's won 7 or 8 IndyCar races, 4 or 5 late model races, a couple of Grand National races. He's never had the success really at the Cup level, but a lot of us haven't, Remy's one of those guys that, he burns his tires a little and you can get an advantage on him there. And he doesn't have on fresh tire, if there's a late restart, Remy's not the fastest guy on the track. He's not going to out-awoke you, you know what I mean? But the truth with Remy is that if you put him head-to-head in the pack with 3, 4, 5 cars and in a situation, where smarts is going to decide who wins it, then Remy's as good as anybody. And I know on that last restart, he was in second, and he's a teammate, but I know if I have a shot to win, I have to get past him. And guys don't want to hear this, but this is the truth. Most of these created tracks, at least the ones that are 1.5 miles or less, they're not draft tracks. You can get – it's sort of like at Motegi when, before we had the show going, when I won a Motegi IndyCar race and I didn't have the draft and I had 2 cars chasing me the whole race, and you wonder how did he avoid getting caught. The reason was because without having to deal with a drafting partner, I could go faster through the corners. then I could, I was making up for the time losing on a straightaway, which can happen at Motegi in the right situation. And in these races, it's very similar. The edge you're going to get off the draft is not quite as much as you're going to get from having a clear track in front of you heading into the corner. You're going to be faster coming off the corner. You're going to make up for what you get off the draft in a lot of situations. And so I knew I had to make a move. I stuck the nose in under Remy. It was just enough to give Gooch with about, there were 6 or 7 laps to go, enough time to get a jump out. And that's one of those moves that I'm lucky that Remy's a pro. And because if he didn't see me, he would have pushed me straight into the grass and we'd have finished, 7th and 8th, 9th and 10th rather than 2 and 3. But, you did everything you needed to do to get out front, Gooch, and congratulations to you.
Thank you very much, Carl. Yeah, it was definitely it was a number 13 unofficial wins.
Yep, those are always good races. Like you said, if we could just have the servers stick with us a little bit better, we could have some really awesome races going on there. Again, our rundown is Gooch first, then Carlin second, Tony moves third, Super fourth, and Remy putting in a good finish around that top 5. That was an awesome race there for our Class 2 stock car division. Let's go ahead and talk about our Class 2 open wheel division real quick. We ran the Mucinex 50 out there at Greenville. You guys want to talk about that race?
Can I just say first, the Mucinex 50 at the Greenville Raceway, was that on purpose?
That's possible. I don't have it on my thing here, but I don't believe I was at that race, but I did test the Indy Lights on those short tracks. They're a lot of fun. I really do believe that those tracks are what we intend for the lower series. I think running an Indy Light at Greenville got you ready for running an Indy car at Greenville were we to run it there. To some extent, you learn the weight of the car and how to take the turns, and that's an argument that we've had before on the different series. There are some of us in the league who don't feel that late model does that properly for Winston Cup the way Grand National does. Indy Lights used to have that problem where the connection between it and IndyCar was tentative, but on these shorter ovals, I think it does help because you have to run in a close quarters with people. You have to run in close quarters with a car that weighs that much and handles that way, even if it is 50, 60 miles an hour slower than an Indy car. I think it does. I think it does prepare you. We don't have any of the real short tracks on the IndyCar schedule this season. Not to say that we won't in the future, but I know from testing that had to be a good race.
Yep, those are usually good races. I could see how that would be a real fun one. So that was our Class 3 open wheel division, and we had our Class 3 stock car division. That was another awesome race there at Greenville. Man, and we had a close race. Just another one of those things where we have really great racing on those tracks. Everybody's real competitive. The cream really comes to the top, obviously. But we didn't really have a lot of lag issues in that race. I screwed up and I set it for a 55-lap race when it was supposed to be a 45-lap race. So we did 10 kind of high-speed pace laps, kind of warm up our cars, and then we jumped to the pit and got fresh tires and then started the race. And I don't know if maybe that helped a little bit with, clearing out some of the lag issues that we had, but it seemed like everybody was, pretty smooth. We had 10 guys in there, I think. It was a fun race. I had them pretty much locked up most of the race. But at the end there, J-Dog and Vinny were running me down in the last segment. Vinny ended up getting around me as him and J-Dog came up and were giving me pop shots there going into the corners. Vinny ended up getting around me. We were racing real hard, and I ended up getting back around Vinny, but by that time, DeCamber was all alone by himself. Like Carlin said, you're by yourself. You can run real hard into the corner. You can hit it coming out. You ain't got to worry about anybody else. He got right up to us, and he was giving me a piece of business there. J-Dog and Vinny, man, they both drive for me. I couldn't be more proud of the way they were running. They did end up getting together there real late in the race after no more caution time, and Vinny ended up getting punted down close to the pits there. He didn't actually go into the pits, but in that piece of grass there off of turn 4, he got punted to the outside there by J-Dog when they got together. Looks like J-Dog recovered to pick up the 3rd place. DeCamber was trying to run me down there at the end, and I was just waiting for that race to get over. You know, when you got somebody running you down, you're just like, really? 3 more laps? Can we get this thing over with yet? It's like, man, he's getting closer and closer, but luckily I held him off. And again, another great race there at those Greenville. I mean, it sounded like a damn broken record. Just wait for the service catch up with us, as good as the racing is.
Oh, yeah, and then not to give a call out. I wasn't at that race, but I'm going to give a call out to Smoking Rock, new team in the league. I don't believe he even has any drivers with him, but, Smoking Rock's a good driver, getting a 4th place there. He's going to be, he's definitely an SCL-type guy and should be around for a while. It's with those guys, same thing with some of the newer drivers. It's just a matter of figuring out. I think the biggest difference when guys come into the league, that I know I'm an odd case because I never played the Gran Turismo games before. I always played other games, and then I had only been on this game for 4 days when I found SCL, so I learned how to play polyphony racing games in this league. But I think what I see between public rooms and our rooms is the public rooms are, you guys know it's a free-for-all, and you learn to do certain things to protect yourself. I know if I race a public NASCAR room or something, even if it's supposed to be a clean race, there's certain things that you have to do to protect yourself. You have to protect the fact that you're going to get hit here, you're going to get bumped here. You have to do, you have to race with a type of aggression that you probably don't want to, just because you know that in any given, if there's 12 guys in a public NASCAR race, 4 or 5 of them don't belong behind the wheel of a car, and to be blunt about it. And so you have to learn how to do that. I think when new guys come in here, it takes time for them to adjust that you're in a room where just about everybody in here is high amateur to pro level. And, you have to realize that just because, you win in every public room, this is a different ball game, and there's much higher level of competition, and not just the higher level. I mean, there's good drivers everywhere, but even a really good driver in a public room comes in, doesn't have any concept of running a 200-300 mile race, and how to make that happen. And I think once the new guys adjust to that, that's when you see them start performing. And we've seen it. We've seen guys like Vindictive, J-Dog. They came in and they didn't struggle right away, but, it took them time to get used to how we do it. And I see that in guys like Smoking Rock and Twindy, and they're all making these races and getting the experience, and they're just getting better and better. So I congratulate them on their good finishes.
Yeah, we got a great bunch of rookies and newer guys in the league right now. Like, this probably, since I've joined the league, this is the biggest, influx of new drivers at once. I think my rookie season, I think it was just me and one other person competing, and they're not even in the league anymore. You know what I mean? So it's neat to see that many new people all at once.
Yep, we're getting new people all the time. I think all of our social media coverage is really helping out. Just want to give a shout out to the live viewers that we have watching right now. Yeah, there's a couple in here to go. We got one person watching live. So, hey, what up? We'll talk about our Class 3 open wheel race. We had an awesome race there at Greenville in the shifter carts. Those go in the public lobby, or the public club lobby. And, another great race. I think I probably had the fastest car because I probably did more tests than anybody else at that short track. It ain't hard for me to do that. But again, a little bit of a lag bump shot me off into the grass. No cautions in those, so they are what they are. I believe Colio ended up winning. It might have been, there's another guy, that was a long time ago. It's kind of hard for me to remember all the way back to Tuesday. But again, great racing. Those tracks really bring out the best in everybody.
Oh, I really like the we see this in the Camel GT sometimes too. The kart races bring out the road course ringers. The guys will see it at the public lobby. and especially karts. There are a lot of people who love racing karts, like 90% of what they do. And so they have all the setup. So they come into a race, and they'll do really well in a kart race. We've seen rookies, new guys come in, win kart races, finish second, finish third. And that's what we're glad for, because it draws them in. But most of the time, they get a really, really rude awakening when they come to one of the bigger events once they've run the kart. They realize that it's a whole other show. But that series serves its purpose. It gets people into the room. It gets them into the race. With the tuning being the only series that you can tune only because of the gearing on them, you get guys who will come in and do well right away, which helps them, want to come back. And, I'm one of those guys that I will never understand why I can whip a, 500 horsepower, 500 kilogram Indy car around anywhere and be among the top 2 or 3 fastest, but you put me in a go-kart and I'm completely lost. I'll never understand that, but the guys that are good at go-karts are really good at go-karts. And it's just a great draw-in series. It really attracts people. It's an entry level, and I'm glad that we see all the new guys in those races.
Yeah, I like the karts. They're fun to get racing in them little shifter karts here we got here. Polio's the champion of it. Looks like he might be the last champion for a while because we aren't doing points. But, like you said, it serves its purpose. It's a real simplified race. No cautions, kind of go right away with a 5-minute warm-up, 5-minute qualifying, 10-minute race. Pretty simple. There's not a whole lot of rules to follow, so it brings all those public guys in, and they can battle with some of the FBL drivers, and most of the time get their ass handed to them. All right, so, we had a good week racing. We got a week off. Everybody can kind of take a little break as we roll through. I'll scroll through the calendar here, and Carlin's got a little something to announce about some SEL testing policies.
Oh, yeah. This week being a bye week, I know that if I get a chance, I'm going to be doing some testing on. I need to get the schedule up here, but as I'm going to try to do some testing for the various series whenever I can. But you guys remember, if you're a league driver, you're a member in good standing, you're always welcome to go in to a room, open up using the specs, and usually you'll get guys will come in there with you and run with you, and you'll wind up with a little bit of a test room going. I recommend that, this being an off week. I'd say at the normal time of a race that there would be a race that week. If you go Friday night at 7 Eastern and open up an IndyCar practice at Motegi, I'm willing to bet you'll get half a dozen at least guys who in there willing to. I mean, I know I'd be willing to run. Could always use 50, 100 laps at Motegi just to stay fresh. It's been there a while since we've been there, so I think everybody will probably have. We don't set them officially, but there'll be test sessions up. Usually around the times of the races. And just remember, guys, there's no substitute for data. And I've done it with several teams. I've done it with the new team Regulator Racing with with Roland and Cat Guy. I gave them a little bit of info as to how I gather data, how you come up with a race map. I don't mind doing that for people because the truth, it's like something an old coach of mine used to say in a sport. He's like, you can tell, like when I was playing baseball, they'd say, you can tell the guy you're going to throw a fastball, but, he's still got to hit the damn thing. And so I can tell you how I get the data, but how I use it in a race is a totally different thing. There's no substitute for it. Not everybody Johnny Benson and just jumps in the track and uses the first 20 laps to get warmed up, So I recommend, especially the newer guys, getting some test time, and otherwise just relax and, we're full back into it next week, guys.
Yeah, next week we got some awesome races going on. A lot of you guys going to need some practice going out west coast to Willow Springs, so we got a week off, and then we're going to be at Willow Springs with the Cup cars and the Grand National cars. They're going to be at the Big Willow course out there at Willow Springs. Late Model's got a non-points event because of the Budweiser duels. At Daytona is the same night as we have our JEGS 100. So if you guys were planning on going to that JEGS 100 next Thursday, that is going to be postponed a week. And we're going to be running the Rebel 100 at the beautiful Dixie Union Speedway next Thursday in the late models. Winston West is also going to be at Big Willow. So a lot of races there at Big Willow, a lot of time for you to get brushed up on them. Like you said, Indy cars racing at Motegi Speedway for the Bridgestone 250. That's going to be an awesome fun race. Indy Lights are going to be at Motegi with the Indy cars. Same with the Indy Light or the Indy carts are also going to be at Motegi for a 10-minute race. And then rounding out our Class 1 Camel GT, those guys are going to be at Big Willow. So Wednesday night, a little warm up for Saturday and Sunday.
So yeah, I figured that next week we'll give a full preview of Willow Springs is kind of our Riverside. We've been running it ever since I've been in the league. I can tell you, finishing second in the Winston Western 200 last season was an absolute thrill for me to run that well at that difficult track. And we're going there again in Camel GT, like you said, and I think next week we'll give a full preview because there's a lot of history we have built up in those races.
Yep. Any final words you got there, Gooch, to say to everybody there coming out live across the airwaves there for YouTube?
Yeah, everybody better buy their wives and girlfriends flowers so they don't fucking pull the plug on their system when they're racing, when we go racing again. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, you got to keep them happy so they let you race, right?
Got to keep them happy so you can have your race time.
There you go.
Any final words from you, Carlin, before we wrap up the show here?
No, we had a good week of racing. I think that we'll, everybody will take the downtime, get a little testing in, play an offline, whatever, and come back next week, ready to fire. We got points races. A lot of us got to make up ground in Camel GT because of the technical trouble at Indy, and there's going to be it's a big week as far as that goes. I mean, it's the third round of most of the championships. That's a big pivot. We're going to really see how the championships are shaping up. So we'll just we'll see you guys next week then for that.
Yep, should be a good week. Everybody enjoy your week off. We'll get back to it in a little bit. For everybody here at the SCL, I'm Johnny Benson. We had our guest stars Carlin Hicks and Immoral Gooch in here with us. And we had a good race in this week. And week off, everybody's going to take a little rest, hang out with the old lady, and we'll resume at Big Willow and Motegi. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week with the SCL Weekly.